My husband accompanied me to the hospital for a checkup, and a renal cyst was detected. His so-called white moonlight, who claimed to be a gynecological expert, said my risk of kidney cancer was very high and that immediate removal was necessary to save my life. After she removed one of my kidneys, I realized she had deliberately exaggerated my condition. Her younger brother had uremia, and my kidney was a match for his. She used my kidney to save her brother's life. I angrily demanded answers, only to be met with my husband's divorce papers. If I had known you couldn't get pregnant, I would never have married you in the first place. Your signature is on the kidney donation agreement. Calling the police won't do you any good. Get out of here already. You're an eyesore. Watching that despicable couple's smug smiles, I was overwhelmed with grief and rage, literally spitting blood in anger before dying. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my husband took me to the hospital for surgery. Honey, hurry up, I'll go downstairs to get the car first and wait for you. My husband Knox Cheen called out to me in the bathroom while putting on his shoes to leave. Liu specifically made time to examine you today. Don't keep her waiting. After he left the house, I took a moment to collect myself and let out a long sigh of relief. I never expected that I would be reborn on the very day I went to the hospital for a checkup. This day in my previous life was the turning point of my fate, where I tasted the bitterness of betrayal and deceit, and truly saw the ugly face of Knox Cheen, who had been by my side day and night. It was just a renal cyst, painless, harmless, and nothing serious, but he insisted on taking me to the hospital for another checkup. He even swore solemnly, saying that Liu was a renowned gynecological expert, and he wouldn't rest easy until she gave me a thorough examination. I thought he genuinely cared about me and was quite moved at the time. Looking back now, how foolish I was back then. In my previous life, when I arrived at the hospital, Liu warmly assisted me with the checkup. Later, with a grave expression, she said to me, "Arya Sue, you need to prepare yourself mentally. Your condition isn't very optimistic. The chance of your renal cyst becoming cancerous is very high." Hearing this, I was completely terrified. Knox Cheen pretended to be anxious and asked how to treat it. Liu said in a deep voice, "Perform a nephrectomy. As long as her left kidney is removed, there will be no problem." At that time, I was so frightened that I lost all composure. Under Liu's intimidation and my husband's hypocritical, anxious persuasion, I signed some documents. I thought those were just necessary pre-surgery consent forms. Who would have known that a kidney donation agreement was mixed in among them? After the surgery was completed, it wasn't until Knox Cheen coldly threw the divorce papers in front of me that I finally woke up to reality. But by then, it was already too late. Recalling the tragic events of my previous life, I gritted my teeth and muttered, "If I don't send you all to hell this time, wouldn't I be wasting the chance the heavens gave me to live again?" Upon arriving at the hospital, Knox Cheen took me directly to see Liu. After a thorough examination, Liu looked at my test results. With a grave expression, she said to me, "Arya Sue, you need to be mentally prepared. You must undergo surgery as soon as possible. If you delay, there's a high chance it could develop into cancer." I pretended to be shocked, but in reality, I had already secretly recorded the conversation as evidence with my phone. Knox Cheen quickly interjected, "It's just a renal cyst. How could it turn into cancer? Could there be a mistake?" Liu sighed and said, "The chance of a renal cyst becoming cancerous is very low, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. If you don't believe it, you can go to another hospital for a second opinion." Before I could speak, Knox Cheen hurriedly added, "How could we not trust you? It's just that we're having a hard time accepting it right now. Can we take medicine to regulate it?" Liu shook her head and said bluntly, "Your wife's condition is already very dangerous. Surgery is the safest and quickest way to remove the root of the problem. Taking medicine might not be very effective." Watching them put on their act over there, I sneered inwardly. They really went to great lengths to take my kidney. Fortunately, I called my uncle before coming to the hospital. I lost both parents at a young age and was raised by my uncle. My uncle has extensive connections. The director of this hospital is his sworn brother. In my previous life, I was completely fooled by Knox Cheen and Liu. Forgetting to inform my uncle, by the time the surgery was over, it was already too late. My uncle was already on his way. As long as I could buy some time and expose Knox Cheen and Liu's ugly true colors, I could absolutely ruin this despicable couple and make their lives a living hell. I took the test reports and said, I think I'll go to another hospital for a second opinion. Hearing this, Liu frowned slightly and glanced at Nox Chin. Nox Chin hurriedly said to me, honey, don't waste any more time. Even if we go to another hospital, the results will be the same. Liu is a highly skilled doctor. If she performs the surgery herself, there definitely won't be any issues. I shook my head and said, I need to get checked a few more times before I can accept my fate. I don't doubt Dr. Liu's medical skills, I'm just not ready yet. Let me think about it a little longer. Liu said solemnly, your condition is already very dangerous. Every day you delay increases the risk. I only made time to diagnose and treat you out of respect for Nox Chin. Nox Chin quickly chimed in, honey, Liu is usually very busy. Getting treated early will give us peace of mind sooner. If you delay treatment and something really happens with kidney cancer, how am I supposed to live the rest of my life without you? Before I could respond, he urged Liu to perform the surgery on me immediately. Liu called over a few of her intern assistants, and they practically carried me to the operating room. I struggled desperately, shouting loudly, which drew the attention of many people in the hospital. My uncle hadn't arrived yet. Once they took me to the operating room for the kidney removal surgery, everything would be over. Noticing the many eyes on us, Nox Chin quickly covered my mouth, pretending to be sorrowful. He said, honey, even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for me, for our family. Your condition can't be delayed any longer. With Dr. Liu performing the surgery personally, what are you afraid of? Don't worry, if anything happens to you on the operating table, I won't live on alone. With a masterful performance, Nox Chin successfully established his persona as a devoted husband deeply in love with his wife. Unaware of the truth, the surrounding patients and their families also began to speak up. Dr. Liu is highly skilled in medicine. She was the lead surgeon when my mother had her operation last time, and now my mother has recovered very well. The worst scenario is when patients avoid medical treatment out of fear. Illnesses must be treated early. My father is a prime example. He was stubborn all his life, enduring minor illnesses and refusing treatment for major ones. He passed away last year. If he had cooperated with the treatment back then, he might have lived several more years. Everyone praised Liu and believed Nox Chin was right to push me into having the surgery. They don't know the truth and think I'm a stubborn fool who refuses medical treatment, believing I don't appreciate their kindness. But who could have known that this Liu, whom they see as highly skilled in medicine, only wanted to remove my kidney to save her brother's life? Who could have imagined that after my surgery, the seemingly devoted Nox Chin would throw a divorce agreement at me with utter disgust and disdain? After I was wheeled into the operating room, Liu took out several documents for me to sign. I was tricked by her in my past life. How could I possibly fall for it again now? Seeing my furious struggle and refusal to sign, Liu frowned deeply. At this moment, Nox Chin stepped forward, picked up the pen, took those documents, and said, I'll sign for her. I'm familiar with her handwriting, so imitating her signature won't be a problem. Hearing this, one of the intern assistants cautiously said, this isn't according to the rules. Liu gave the intern assistant a cold glance and said sternly, Xiao Li, tell me what the rules are. You're my students. You should know my temper by now. Rules are rigid, but people are flexible. The husband has already agreed. Who asked for your opinion? If you think this violates the rules, go report me to the dean right now. Let's see whether the dean kicks you out or me. A threatening remark immediately silenced the intern, who lowered their head without daring to make a sound. The same went for the other interns. Their futures were all in Liu's hands. How could they dare to defy her now? Taking advantage of the intern's distraction, I also struggled free and tried to rush out of the operating room. As a result, I was stopped by Nox Chin. He grabbed me in a tight embrace, holding me firmly like a pair of iron pliers. By now, his expression had darkened as he scolded me. Arya Su, stop fooling around, don't waste any more time, we're doing this for your own good. Liu also said coldly, if it weren't for Nox Chin's sake, I wouldn't have taken the time to personally perform your surgery. If you keep making a scene like this, you'll only end up hurting yourself, even at this point. This despicable couple is still putting on an act. Seeing their self-righteous expressions makes me sick, and at the same time, fills me with rage. With a loud slap, I struck Liu hard across the face. She was careless, standing too close to me. The slap left her completely stunned. Nox Chin shouted at me angrily. Arya Su, have you lost your mind? Liu's face turned livid as she gritted her teeth and said, enough talk, give her the anesthetic and prepare for surgery. I roared. This is a crime. I'll sue you all. None of you will get away with this. This surgery was secretly orchestrated by Nox Chin and Liu, with far too many irregularities. Once word gets out, they'll definitely face severe consequences. In my previous life, they ruined me. I foolishly signed without leaving any evidence of their deception, ending up in a miserable state. But now, I've been secretly recording everything while also reaching out to my uncle. As long as I can hold out until my uncle arrives, this despicable pair will be in deep trouble. Watching me still struggling desperately, Liu yelled angrily at the intern assistants. What are you idiots standing around for? The intern assistants hurried forward and helped Nox Chin pin me down on the operating table. With a grim expression, Liu personally approached me, holding an anesthetic needle. I cursed furiously. Liu, you despicable and shameless bitch. You seduced a married man and conspired with Nox Chin to harm me. You despicable pair deserve a wretched death. Nox Chin and Liu immediately turned pale with anger. The intern assistants all widened their eyes, their faces filled with shock. Nox Chin glared at me fiercely and said sternly to the interns, she's spouting nonsense. Ignore her. Liu's face twisted into a grimace as she prepared to inject me with anesthesia. Despair began to creep into my heart. Was I still unable to escape the tragic fate of my previous life? Just then, the door of the operating room was suddenly pushed open. A crowd surged in, instantly leaving Liu and Nox Chin stunned. When I saw my uncle arriving with his men, tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. The burly men brought by my uncle shoved the interns aside and pinned Nox Chin down. Nox Chin struggled furiously, shouting, "Who are you people? What do you think you're doing?" As soon as he finished speaking, my uncle slapped him across the face. Ignoring him, my uncle turned to me, my face streaked with tears, and said angrily, "I warned you before not to marry this slick, pretty-faced guy. But you said I was biased against him. You even got mad at me because of him, didn't let me attend your wedding. And after you got married, you didn't dare let him know you had a domineering, protective uncle like me. Now you see just how spot on your uncle's judgment is, don't you?" I threw myself into my uncle's arms and cried out of grievance. Liu also snapped back to reality at this moment and said sharply, "This is a hospital, not a place for you to act wild. Don't disrupt the hospital's order here. Get out, or I'll call the police." My uncle snorted coldly. "Even if you don't call the police, we will. The patient refused the surgery, yet you illegally confined my niece and even attempted to perform the operation against her will. What kind of place is this? A hospital or a slaughterhouse?" Liu gritted her teeth in anger, her eyes betraying a hint of panic. Just then, a plump, balding man entered the operating room and said cheerfully to the uncle, "Mr. Tang, please calm down. The director is attending a conference out of town and can't return immediately. As soon as he received your call, he instructed me to handle this matter right away." The uncle glanced at the plump, balding man and said calmly, "Vice Dean Chi, your hospital must give an explanation regarding what happened to my niece." Vice Dean Chi cleared his throat and said, "Dr. Liu is not only highly skilled in medicine at our hospital but also widely praised for her medical ethics. I believe there must be some misunderstanding in this matter." Misunderstanding? Can such a matter be dismissed so lightly with just a claim of misunderstanding? I took out my phone from my pocket and played the recording of the recent conversation between Liu and Nox Chin. Liu looked nervous, her expression extremely unpleasant. Nox Chin was struggling and shouting frantically, trying to snatch my phone, but he was firmly pinned down by several burly men brought by my uncle, unable to move at all. Listening to the recording on my phone, Vice Dean Chi frowned slightly. "Miss Su, such a recording alone proves nothing. Dr. Liu was just acting out of urgency to save lives. Her actions indeed violated our hospital's regulations, and I will penalize her according to our hospital's rules. As for the surgery consent form, it was your husband who forged your signature. Dr. Liu has little to do with this matter. Lastly, I must point out that recording audio or video without a doctor's consent is not allowed in our outpatient department. Miss Su, Your secret recording is illegal and cannot serve as valid evidence. Hearing Vice President Chi's words, I was instantly furious. Just as I was about to say something, my uncle stopped me, narrowing his eyes at Deputy Director Chi. He said calmly, "Deputy Director Chi, are you trying to protect Dr. Liu here?" Deputy Director Chi replied with a forced smile, "Mr. Tang, I'm simply following the hospital's regulations. There's no intention of favoritism here. I know you have a good relationship with the director, Mr. Tang, but in this matter, I believe it's best we proceed according to the rules." Deputy Director Chi stood his ground firmly, adopting an air of defiance against authority, which swayed many onlookers outside the operating room to his side. I was furious and was just about to expose how Liu and Nox Chin had conspired to harm me, intending to use my kidney to save Liu's brother, when the police arrived. My uncle whispered in my ear, "Leave everything to me, stay calm. The best is yet to come." I froze for a moment, staring at him in confusion. With a mysterious smile, my uncle offered no further explanation. The police arrived and took us to the police station, just as Vice Dean Chi said. My secretly recorded audio on the phone cannot be considered as evidence. After completing the statement, the police verbally reprimanded Liu and Nox Chin before letting us leave the station. Liu shot me a dark look, snorted coldly, and drove straight back to the hospital. Nox Chin wanted to say something more, but my uncle coldly interrupted. "Today is a good day. Go with my niece to finalize the divorce. You can refuse to divorce if you're feeling bold. But I can't guarantee you won't meet with an accident, like a car crash, in the future." Nox Chin blustered with false bravado. "Are you threatening me? Do you think a few scare tactics will make me back down?" My uncle grabbed him by the collar, patted his face, and said sternly, "Arya Su was raised by my own hands. She's no different from my own daughter. For her, I dare to do anything. Don't think I'm bluffing. Just try me if you don't believe it, if you insist on refusing the divorce. I guarantee you won't live past 3 days." Under the fierce glare of his uncle, Nox Chin's hands and feet trembled uncontrollably. Nox Chin still seemed somewhat reluctant. It wasn't that he couldn't bear to leave me, he just couldn't bear to part with my kidney. My uncle directly pulled out a check and tossed it to Nox Chin. Upon seeing the amount on the check, Nox Chin's eyes lit up, and he gritted his teeth before nodding in agreement. We finalized the divorce procedures that very day and signed the divorce agreement. With that check in hand, Nox Chin readily agreed to leave with nothing. As he packed his belongings and left the house, my uncle casually remarked, "Pretty boy, go to the hospital. There's a surprise waiting for you." Nox Chin shot me and my uncle a fierce glare before dragging his suitcase away. I scolded my uncle for giving him that check. My uncle flicked my forehead and said in a huff, "It's all for you, you little brat. Don't worry. My money isn't so easy to take." I widened my eyes at him and blurted out, "That check was fake." My uncle shook his head and smiled meaningfully, saying, "The check is real. But he might not live long enough to spend it. Let's go to the hospital. The real show is about to begin." I had no idea what my uncle was up to. He was being so mysterious about it. I know my uncle's temper well. Given his personality, he should have lost his patience and taken action the moment he found out Nox Chin and Liu had set me up. Yet, whether at the hospital or the police station, my uncle remained remarkably composed the entire time. What's more, my uncle even stopped me from telling the police about how Nox Chin and Liu deliberately set me up. This left me utterly confused and puzzled. On the way to the hospital in my uncle's car, he made a call to the hospital director. "Old Jew, everything is ready on my end. Fatso Chi is going to be utterly disgraced today. Have you prepared the evidence about Fatty Chi embezzling and taking bribes? Let's talk about it after we meet tonight." After hanging up the phone, seeing my bewildered expression, my uncle smiled. That Deputy Dean Chi, relying on some connections, has been constantly undermining Old Jew recently. Old Jew is currently at a critical moment in the evaluation, and I didn't want to openly clash with him. As a result, that Fatso Chi has been pushing his luck. Coincidentally, I came today to handle your matter, so Old Jew had his people cooperate with mine, preparing to completely ruin that Fatso Chi's reputation. You wouldn't believe it until you investigate. Some of Fatso Chi's affairs also involve your ex-husband and Liu. You'll find out when we get to the hospital. It's quite a show. Uncle deliberately kept me in suspense, which only made me even more curious. upon arriving at the hospital, I noticed a crowd had already gathered in front of the main entrance. All of them were wide-eyed, staring in disbelief at the large screen by the hospital's entrance. On the screen, a man and a woman were passionately entangled in an office. It was none other than the chubby Vice President Chi and El Liu. Isn't El Liu Knox Chin's first love? How did she end up with Vice Dean Chi? On the big screen, El Liu's face was flushed. She cooed, "You naughty thing, you're about to wear me out. Dragging someone into your office in broad daylight. Aren't you afraid of being found out?" Deputy Dean Chi chuckled darkly. "Don't worry. My office is soundproof. No one outside can hear a thing. This is your punishment. You caused such a huge scene today. If it weren't for me, you'd be in serious trouble." El Liu snorted and said, "Who would have guessed that bitch Arya Su had an uncle? If it weren't for him barging into the operating room with his men, I would have already removed Arya Su's kidney. There's no hope now. We'll have to find another kidney match for my brother," Deputy Director Chi casually remarked. "No need to rush this. Our hospital is large enough. We'll definitely find a kidney match for your brother. When the time comes, we just need to persuade the patient's family a bit. Removing and transplanting the kidney is quite straightforward. Let's not talk about this for now. What are you planning to do about Knox Chin, after what happened today? That Arya Su will surely divorce Knox Chin. Are you really planning to marry him?" El Liu rolled her eyes at Deputy Director Chi and said irritably, "If I don't marry him, will you marry me? Do you even dare to divorce that old hag of yours?" Deputy Director Chi gave an awkward smile and replied, "Though my wife is past her prime, her family still has some influence. I'm counting on their support to help me secure the position of hospital director." El Liu pouted and said, "After I marry Knox Chin, won't I still be able to be with you at the hospital? Besides, I'm already carrying your child." I lied to Knox Chin, telling him the baby is his. "If I don't marry him soon, my pregnancy will start showing. I don't want the stigma of being an unwed mother hanging over my head." Staring at the wanton display of this man and woman on the screen and listening to their conversation, not only were the crowd at the hospital entrance stunned and speechless, but I was also utterly shocked. I looked at my uncle and said in disbelief, "Uncle, did you arrange this?" My uncle chuckled and said, "Isn't it thrilling? It's not over yet. Keep watching." In front of the hospital's large screen, many people had already taken out their phones to record the scene. Hospital security came to disperse the crowd, but no one paid them any attention. Many doctors and nurses also rushed over upon hearing the news. And they were all stunned after seeing what was displayed on the large screen. At that very moment, the image on the large screen began to change. The phone in Vice Dean Chi's office rang, interrupting his busy work with El Liu. Annoyed, he simply yanked the phone cord out. Shortly after, both his and El Liu's cell phones started ringing, but neither of them answered. It was likely someone from the hospital trying to call and inform them that their every move was now being broadcast on the large screen outside the hospital. The office door was suddenly kicked open. Knox Chin appeared at the office door with bloodshot eyes, glaring fiercely at the frozen El Liu and Vice Dean Chi. El Liu turned pale and was about to say something when Knox Chin stormed into the office. In his hand was a claw hammer, its origin unknown, as if driven by uncontrollable rage. He swung it wildly at Vice Dean Chi. "Murder." El Liu was terrified and, without even bothering to put on clothes, ran anxiously toward the office door, shouting in panic. Deputy Director Chi also screamed and tried to flee, but Knox Chin smashed a hammer into his leg. Deputy Director Chi fell to the ground and pleaded with Knox Chin in fear. "Knox Chin, don't act rashly. Killing is against the law. I can give you money. Name your price. I'll pay whatever you." Before he could finish speaking, the already irrational Knox Chin swung a hammer directly at Vice Dean Chi's forehead. Blood gushed out as Vice Dean Chi fell unconscious. Judging by the force of that hammer blow, even if Vice Dean Chi survived, he would likely suffer severe after effects. After knocking out Vice Dean Chi, Knox Chin grabbed the claw hammer and stormed out of the office, his eyes bloodshot as he chased after El Liu. Then, everyone saw El Liu running out of the hospital building in panic, completely naked. Behind her, Knox Chin was closely following, roaring with anger. When Knox Chin struck El Liu on the back of her head with a hammer, she collapsed to the ground, her body convulsing violently. Knox Chin didn't stop, delivering several more brutal hammer blows to El Liu's head. "Damn bitch, you all deserve to die." Even after the hospital security guards rushed in and subdued Knox Chin, he continued to curse at L. Liu, who lay in a pool of blood. Like a rabid dog, I stared blankly at my uncle beside me. Waiting for his explanation, my uncle lit a cigarette and casually said with a smile, "Your ex-husband came to the hospital looking for L. Liu. I had someone snatch that check from him and led him to Fatty Chi's office. That claw hammer was deliberately placed at the office door by my people. Mainly because I was worried your pretty boy ex-husband wouldn't be able to handle that pair of scumbags if he barged into the office. Of course, no matter how perfect the plan, there's always room for mistakes, old Jew, and I also prepared follow-up plans to deal with unexpected situations. However, judging from the current situation, the backup plans old Jew and I prepared can only serve as the icing on the cake now." At this point, my uncle poked my forehead and said with exasperation, "You silly girl, after this incident, consider it a lesson learned, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Next time you run into this kind of nonsense, call me immediately." Watching Knox Chin being pinned down by several security guards, struggling and roaring on the ground, I felt a surge of mixed emotions. My luck can't possibly be this bad. Encountering such scum once is enough to serve as a wake-up call. There's no way I'll run into a second one. Hearing this, my uncle scoffed and said with the profound wisdom of someone who's been through it all, "Don't be so absolute in your words. Who doesn't encounter a few scoundrels in their lifetime? After experiencing it enough, you gradually get used to it, just like your uncle here. Back in the day, I was almost ruined by several scoundrels too. These are all lessons learned. I'll tell you more later. Always keep your guard up in everything. Vice Dean Chi isn't dead, but he might as well be." Knox Chin's hammer blow caused him to suffer a cerebral hemorrhage, resulting in a concussion and permanent blindness. Soon after, the hospital's Dean Ju came forward, exposing all the disgraceful things Vice Dean Chi had done during his time at the hospital. Vice Dean Chi's wife demanded a divorce, and without the support of her family, he was fired from the hospital and taken away by the police. It is said that within a few days, Vice Dean Chi committed suicide by banging his head against the wall in the detention center. As for L. Liu, she was struck repeatedly on the back of her head by Knox Chin. Although she didn't die, she became completely vegetative. Her affair with Vice Dean Chi was widely spread on the internet by many, completely ruining her reputation. Those patients and doctors who had previously spoken up for her now vehemently condemned her for being promiscuous and cruel. The students she had mentored also came forward one after another to recount the evil deeds L. Liu had committed. Because of these incidents, L. Liu's family became victims of online harassment. Her family publicly declared they were severing ties with her, leaving her to fend for herself in her vegetative state. As for Knox Chin, he is still living quite comfortably. After being caught by the police, he stopped his madness. However, it seemed like he had suffered a great shock, sometimes giggling foolishly and other times crying bitterly. I went to see him, but he didn't seem to recognize me. His family didn't give up on him. They obtained a mental illness certificate for him, temporarily bailed him out, and planned to send him to a psychiatric hospital for treatment first. And when he walked out of the detention center, I clearly saw a smug smile on Knox Chin's face from the car not far away. He's pretending to be crazy, trying to escape legal punishment by claiming mental illness. I gritted my teeth and said, "Uncle, are we just going to stand by and watch?" My uncle lazily yawned, glanced in another direction, and said, "Don't worry. There are people who want him dead even more than we do." As soon as Uncle finished speaking, the roar of an engine could be heard from not far away. Immediately after, a dilapidated truck was seen charging toward Knox Chin. Knox Chin's family and the police escorting him instinctively panicked and dodged aside. Then, the dilapidated truck was seen running directly over Knox Chin, whose face was filled with despair and terror. When I saw the police quickly apprehend the murderous driver from that dilapidated truck, I was stunned. L. Liu's younger brother, who has uremia. This truly is the wheel of justice turning. What goes around comes around. Uncle stretched and told the driver to start the car. "This show is finally over. Let's go home. Your aunt has prepared pigeon soup and is waiting for us." I blinked my eyes and whispered, "Uncle, was it also your arrangement for L. Liu's younger brother to run over Knox Chin with his car?" Uncle chuckled and said, "Guess." I turned to look at Knox Chin, lying mangled under the tires, and suddenly, the shackles in my heart seemed to vanish. From now on, I hope I never encounter such scum again. Dear heavens. Thank you for giving me a second chance at life, Uncle. I want to eat sweet and sour pork ribs. Alright, when we get home, I'll have your aunt make it for you.